I don't believe in censorship.
If I show you a picture of a blowjob, would you be offended?
Do you know, Tim, that the more children learn about sexual education in the way that's productive and done in schools, the less likely they are to be sexually abused because they know what is good and what is bad?
I can't share this image on YouTube. I think that the issue is you're confusing sexual education with kink.
What? Tim Pool had Emma Vigeland from The Majority Report on one of his Culture War episodes of Timcast IRL. One of the many topics discussed was the censorship of books in school, in particular the book Gender Queer. Let's see how this conversation went on the live stream versus how Tim portrayed Emma's stance on later shows, while also examining what this book is actually about.
You've never seen this book?
I've heard about it.
Have you ever looked inside of it?
No, but I mean, I don't believe in censorship.
If I show you a picture of a blowjob, would you be offended?
I mean...
Can I show you a picture of a blowjob?
I wouldn't be offended. I mean, I think that, honestly, do you know, Tim, that the more children learn about sexual education in the way that's productive and done in schools, the less likely they are to be sexually abused because they know what is good and what is bad?
I can't share this image on YouTube.
Notice here that Tim is not even paying attention to what Emma is saying, so she explains it again.
Do you hear me, though, about that?
So I think
the more children learn about sexual education, the less likely they are to be victims of pedophilia and rape.
I think that the issue is you're confusing sexual education with kink.
First off, a blowjob is not kink. Oral sex is the most normal sexual activity, if not more so, than having actual sex.
If your argument to me is that I or anyone else should support your politics because you want to show blowjobs to children, you're going to lose.
Simply advocating for sex education as an important element of teaching children what is acceptable behavior from adults is a far cry from wanting to show blowjobs to children.
Because you want to show blowjobs to children, you're going to lose.
Emma continues to try to clarify her stance, illustrating that this book is not part of a curriculum, but rather a single book in a library of a high school.
Well, I don't think that that is a policy done by teachers in this country. I think that this is a...
was in schools in Florida, which is why...
There are a ton of books that are in a ton of schools. I don't believe in censorship. That's not my bag, buddy.
So you think children should have Playboy?
I don't really think so. No, because that's pornography.
Notice that Emma clearly states there is a difference between more mature-themed books and actual pornography, which she states should not be allowed.
So you think children should have Playboy?
I don't really think so. No, because that's pornography.
But what is this book Gender Queer really about? It is a coming-of-age memoir presented in the form of a graphic novel, which depicts the author's confusion of adolescent crushes, going on dates, the embarrassment of someone reading their diary, feeling the need to hide menstrual blood from having their period, dealing with having to use a bra, shaving their legs, as well as facing the trauma and what the author feels is a fundamental violation with the experience of having a pap smear. Perfectly normal issues young girls have to deal with, and it can be helpful to realize they are not the only ones who have questions about what all of these things mean. Ultimately, the author realizes they are asexual. Although only a portion of the story is sexual in nature, one of the experiences that occur, where the author realizes they are not sexually aroused by normal sexual behaviors, is experimenting, by performing a blowjob on a sex toy with a friend. So this blowjob that Tim is so upset about was simulated, not actual. Keep in mind that even classic coming-of-age stories such as The Outsiders and Stand By Me include sexual references and questionable behavior. Not to mention this thing called the internet. Kids have access to and see actual unfettered pornography. I believe it can be helpful to have resources such as these to add context to those who are interested and could use it. But back to Tim and how he conveys Emma Vigeland to his viewers on shows after the interview has taken place.
I showed Emma Gender Queer, the book that depicts a graphic depictions of sex acts, and she said she had no problem with it. Okay. Then I only assume the Occam's razor. Emma wants children to be in positions to have sex with adults.
Why would you possibly assume that, when Emma expressly stated her desire for schools to be able to teach children how to understand and avoid these things?
Do you know, Tim, that the more children learn about sexual education in the way that's productive and done in schools, the less likely they are to be sexually abused because they know what is good and what is bad?
I can't share this image on YouTube.
That's right. He wasn't really listening. Still, Tim goes on to say,
if an adult woman, Emma Vigeland, advocates for teaching kids to use Grindr.
The Grindr app was never mentioned in the interview at all. Since Grindr was mentioned in passing in the Gender Queer book, Tim conflates this to misrepresent Emma's point.
And showing them porn.
Again, Emma expressly stated the difference between sex ed and pornography, which she does not condone.
I think children should have Playboy.
I don't really think so. No,
What about
because that's
Hustler?
pornography.
Emma Vigeland advocates for teaching kids to use Grindr and showing them porn. I can't make any other assumption other than she wants to engage in sexual activity with children.
Nowhere in the entire interview is there anything at all indicating Emma wants to engage in sexual activity with children. Quite the opposite. She was attempting to have a good faith conversation on how to prevent any harm to children when it comes to issues such as these. Yet this is how Tim spins his culture war to his audience. Even Tim's co-host Ian cannot stand for Tim's blatant lies and pushes back on this narrative.
And I think they both, Sam and Emma, get a kick out of making you upset. Like, it's just part of like the pushing your friends around when you're little.
This is not. No. I'm stopping you. I'm sorry. This is not me being like, oh, I can't believe I got dunked on it. This is Emma advocating for pedophilia.
No, it's not. You cut her off at 1:05. I was watching this clip. I watched the show live. You cut her off at 1:05 in the clip and didn't let her talk about what she said. Maybe the teacher has a student in her class. And you cut her off. And that was the end of it. She couldn't explain herself.
Watch the full episode.
I did. I watched it once.
She wants to engage in sexual activity with children.
And this is why you cannot trust Tim Pool.